Hey all, it's Nim or Mimicry if you're feeling professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now today we're going to be discussing upcoming Mythic Sepulchre tuning, so even more massive nerfs coming. Now before we get started, and we got to dissect that headline, if you like what I do, or you like MMORPG content in general, why don't you click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with everything the channel does. Additionally, I have been told by my audience I should push this more often. I stream on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But without further ado, let's talk about Mythic Nerfs. Now, it's no surprise that Mythic encounters are hard. They're the hardest difficulty in the game. They are the only encounters that really have a fixed party size. They're hard. We have watched the Race to World first. Everybody does great. And then afterwards, there's some tuning and some tuning and some tuning and some tuning and some tuning. And sometimes that tuning takes place in the form of nerfs. Now, I don't know about massive, but we'll see. I haven't really read through this, so we'll find out. I will say that in general, the echoes, the limits, the methods of the world tend to play a different raid than the people like myself, right? I'm at best a mid-tier Mythic Raider when I'm seriously playing WoW. Right, and that's fine. I know who I am. I know what I do. Sometimes I get those, high purple parses, and I'm like, yes. Some people look at a high purple parse and are like, I did terrible. So, no, we look at stuff. Ultimately, I'm of the school if the boss dies, everything went well. But, we can have that debate a little later. Now, scrolling down here, so Blizzard has posted upcoming Mythic Sepulchre tuning, which once again massively nerfs the Mythic Sepulchre raid, including large changes to Lehuvum, Halandrius, Anduin, Rygalon, and the Jailer. Okay, so tier, no tier, no tier from the Jailer. That was still a mistake. I stand by that. I will stand by that until someone convinces me otherwise that not putting tier on the Jailer was a mistake, or wasn't a mistake. So let's look at the blue post here. So Blizzard says, we've heard feedback that several encounters in Sepulchre of the first ones would benefit from adjustments as they're too difficult due to punishing mechanics, and we want to further reduce the likelihood that those mechanics can quickly cause an unrecoverable wipe. Now, I want to pause here. It is very hard to design raid bosses. Now, I mean, we all know patchwork, the typical patchwork fight. In fact, that's what Simcraft measures. It's a patchwork fight. You hit there and you hit it for a certain amount, and if you beat X check, congratulations, dead. If you don't, okay, you wipe and try again. That's an easy fight to do. You need a damage check. Then you add in things like motion. Oh, well, I gotta run here, I gotta do this, but I still have to maintain a certain amount of stuff. So it's very hard to create bosses, and especially when you're creating various levels of bosses and adding in various mechanics, it's hard. So it's understandable that things get nerfed, and sometimes things get nerfed by large swathes and big swings and all that. So I understand that. I want to say it would be harder to design a fight that is recoverable than a fight that punishes. A lot of people here may remember Nighthold. Nighthold was punishing on Mythic. A lot of times there was a lot of like, oh, we failed that mechanic. It's time to start it. We might as well wipe and try again. And I understand that some bosses can be like that. You have this check where it's like, did everybody do the personal responsibility check? Everybody passed it? Great. We're going to kill the boss? No? Okay. And we try again. Now, we also send feedback that the Lehuvum encounter was too constrained due to the difficulty of some of the Automa, so we want to make adjustments to open the possibility of different strategies to players. At this time, we plan to make the following adjustments with scheduled weekly maintenance on Tuesday, June 21st. So, coming up here in a couple of days. Tomorrow, by the time you see the video, and hey, I like this. Again, I'm not against nerfs, especially if the developers think that certain things are not happening as they should. Obviously, your world-first players are going to find a way to muscle it down. Well, us average plebeians, myself included in that, I'm not going to be able to kill that this. And ideally, I'm sure they want a slightly higher percentage of people clearing the Mythic content. Even if it's the last week of the patch, the last time for you to get that cutting edge, you still got it, and it still counts. Big fan of that. Now, so for Lehuvum, we have the health reduced by 15% on Mythic difficulty, Resonance Cascade damage reduced by 90% on Mythic difficulty, increase the cooldown on Guardian, Automa's Form Sentry, Automa on Mythic difficulty. Okay, so it's easier to kill. His big ability doesn't do as much damage, and significantly, 90% is that's a huge nerf. Now, again, I've not ran Mythic Lahuvum, so I don't know how big of a drop that is. I'm just looking at numbers. So this, in some level, is Greek, but I do understand that when I've done previous Mythic Raiding, if you were to nerf, I don't know, let's say kill Jaden's Meteors by 90% damage, well, I don't even need to soak him anymore. Why would I soak him? We'll just pop a minor healing C, maybe, or have a couple of druids be like, guys, I don't know, do something, and then it's fine. And then, of course, the guard increasing the cooldown means it's going to happen less frequently. Now, this comes in, I want to point out something about add-ons. There are add-ons that track what the boss does, when it does it, what cooldowns, things like that. I'm a big fan of those. I think they should still stay in the game in its current design. Because otherwise you have to remember a whole bunch of other things. Whereas Final Fantasy XIV, it's like, okay, well, I'm slashing left, so I'm swinging my sword up to the left. That means I gotta go right. Or I gotta go right and get behind it, do all that jazz. WoW's encounters are not designed that level of animation fidelity to mechanic, say. Which is fine, so add-ons can help understand. We now have Halandry. Aftershock damage reduced by 75% on Mythic difficulty. Planet Cracker Beam damage reduced by 65%, and its damage occurs less frequently on Mythic difficulty. Okay, again, those are some pretty big numbers, and what I've noticed is each of these tier bosses, they're difficult. They're not easy, even on Heroic. And now you might be like, oh, Nim, we can burn through them now. It's like, yeah, you can now, but I remember a lot of guilds getting to some of these bosses being like, ugh. Now, when it got together, we were like, okay, it's time to lay them down. Whap! And that's what happened. But there's not, again, I think Blizzard thinks there's not enough people that are getting through these bosses. They don't have the completion rate they want. We're running into essentially what's the Nax problem. Remember from original vanilla WoW, very few people saw Nax when it was current. And they're like, well, we did all this fight, we do all this content, we might as well make sure people can get to it. And there's a couple of solutions there to make it easier. You could simplify gearing, which would be, I think, probably the best. You could make the fights a little easier. Again, I'm not against that. You could add flexibility to Mythic, which I'm kind of against, because being able to tune for a set number of players is easier for the devs to take things into account, as opposed to having, let's say, a 5 Boomkin ESG strat. Now, there are still some Mythic guilds that will be like, oh, Boomkin's best here? Okay, well, we can field 7 mythically geared, orange parsing Boomkin druids to absolutely murder this fight. But the average guild can't do it. I believe in designing to the average, not the exceptional. Because, by definition, exceptional is not the average. We go into Anduin Rin. So, hopelessness and overconfidence duration increased to 16 seconds on all difficulties. Was 12 seconds. Okay, nice. Blasphemy will no longer be triggered when coming into contact with an unmarked player on Mythic difficulty. Tooltip will reflect this change in a future patch. Perfect. I like changing the tooltip is important. March of the Damned. Damage reduction reduced by 75% on all difficulties. Again, great. Soul explosion damage and travel reduced by 30% on all difficulties. Okay, great for your normal, heroic, and mythic guilds. I will say that Anduin Rin was an absolute, it was hard. Now, eventually, one day in a guild I was in, we were failing, and then, boom, it clicked. Everybody got it. And then the next week, we walk in, we're missing we had to pug a tank, getting in there, boom, one shot, and it just, from there, it's never a problem. But it was the idea of get good. And get good doesn't mean, you're bad. Surpass your limits right now. And so that's, and when you do, you get past them, and when you don't, res up and let's try again. Banished Soul cast time increased to 16 seconds on Mythic difficulty, was 12 seconds. Necrotic Detonation cast time increased by 30% on Mythic difficulty. Okay, again, so Necrotic Detonation, if I remember, no, that's Psychic Scream. I think that's Psychic Scream. Anyways, so yeah, these are all good. Again, Anduin Rin is becoming easier, and I like that they didn't touch Wicked Star in this particular thing. Wicked Star, for those who don't know, if it hits you, you become silenced for you take some damage and become silenced for a little while. It originally was think 4 seconds, and they nerfed it down to 2. I'm glad they didn't nerf it anymore. It's fairly easy to see, but that being said, with a mythic difficulty, everybody's tunneling, everybody's focusing, people make mistakes. Even the best players in the world make mistakes, so keep that in mind. Ragalan. Dark Eclipse now targets players on Mythic was 4, okay? And Unstable Matter health reduced by 25% on Mythic difficulty. Okay, so apparently the Unstable Matter just had a little bit too much health for the Massive Bang ability and all that, so that's fine. The Jailer. Now, I've killed normal Jailer. I have not killed Heroic Jailer. I probably won't kill the Heroic Jailer, just because I'm kind of over Shadowlands, to be honest. People still like Shadowlands. Hey, go in the light. Loktar Ogar, whatever. Go in the light. I want you to be happy. I want you to play the best game you can. I want it to be in the best state it can. I personally am a little done with Shadowlands. Now, so here we have the Jailer. Torment damage reduced by 30% on Mythic difficulty. Unholy Eruption. Damage reduced by 30% on Mythic difficulty. Rune of Compulsion. Absorb reduced by 30% on Mythic difficulty. Chainbreaker. Now targets 3 allies on Mythic difficulty was 4. So we're going to stop with this first 3. Go there. So literally just a third reduction, basically, on all these abilities to see if they can't dial it in and try to find the sweet spot. I would personally expect smaller nerfs to the Jailer's abilities as opposed to these huge extra nerfs. If we remember Ice Crown Citadel, there were times where you eventually got a 35% buff to players. And you could dismiss it if you want to. You don't need it, but it was stacking by 5% every week. So that's something there. Now, ICT, of course, is both ancient and soon-to-be new news. As the release of Wrath Classic. Now, will I play Wrath Classic? I don't know. It's a thought. It's a thought. And, of course, Chainbreaker now targeting the nearest 3 allies instead of 4. So now it's 3. Now, instead of being 20% of your raid, it's, I don't know. I'm not going to do the math. Evie's going to make fun of me for that. I should have done the math. I might do it. Incarnation of Torment. Health reduced by 20% on Mythic difficulty. Diverted Life Shield reduced by 75% on Mythic difficulty. And Chains of Anguish will no longer reposition linked targets when the primary target moves out of range on Mythic difficulty. Now, I think that's a good change. Because, in general, part of this is, you're on comms, you're trying to communicate. And you have, especially with a multi-stage fight, and keep in mind, the Jailer on normal and heroic is a 5-stage fight. First phase, intermission. Second phase, intermission. I think that's 5 stage. I think it's 5 stages. It's been a while since I've looked at it. No, it's 3 stages. 3 stages. I'm thinking Anduin Rin. I totally got confused with Anduin Rin. Anduin Rin is a 5-stage fight. First stage, intermission. Second stage, intermission. Third stage, final. No, I totally confused. Forget that. I should edit this out. I won't because I'm probably honest. But the Jailer is a very complex, a lot going on. So when people sometimes move or individual failures, and the thing about repositioning the targets, let's say somebody fails and it repositions the targets, well, then you have a cascading failure that wasn't the fault of the other players that were linked. So I understand some fights have to be like that, but with all the stuff going on, I can see why they'd make those changes. So here's the thing. Look at this, right? We see a lot of nerf, right? And if I were in a top rating, I'd ask, well, what does this mean? Is this, obviously it's easier, but what does this mean for guild? And with all of the multiple weeks of nerfs, is it possible that Mythic in general is too hard? It could be. I've done some Mythic raiding. Granted, I've never been a world first raider. I've done some, we usually do clear through heroic and then do a couple Mythic bosses up to wherever, and then we tiers over, move on to the next tier. We might get more than halfway through, which is great, but that's me. And I'm not an average player when I play WoW. No, I do the raiding, I do the stuff. So the question we have to ask ourselves is Mythic too hard? If it's too hard, how do we fix it to where it's not too hard? And I guess the final thing is Mythic even needed? I'm gonna say yes to that last one. Because I do like very high-end content to challenge the players. But you gotta understand, is that I've killed 0 Mythic bosses. 0. On Sepulchre, the first one. Right? And I have, my character, Nim, has a 5 Mythic tier set. Didn't get another weapon, but has a 5-piece Mythic tier set, all because of Mythic Plus. That's a whole nother thing we can get into, so we're not going to get into that right now. But I'm curious, what do you guys think of these nerfs? What do you think of Mythic in general? Is it going the right way? Is it the wrong way? You can, of course, let me know down below, and I'll do my best to respond to everything. Because, quite frankly, I love the MMORPG genre, and sometimes it even loves me. Now, if you enjoy what I did, or you like MMO content in particular, go on and hit subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with everything the channel does. Additionally, I stream on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that's at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're currently playing through SWTOR and enjoying some of that stuff there, but every now and again we might throw in a different thing, so it can be a lot of fun. If you are social media inclined, you can follow me on Twitter at Mimicry. Of course, that's great for quips, memes, and of course, telling me how wrong I am, because Twitter. For longer discussion, there is a link to my Discord down below in the doobly-doo. I believe that's what it's called, the doobly-doo. And finally, for those who want to go above and beyond the Call of Duty, there is Patreon. Patreon.com/Mimicry. Great way to support the channel. And, of course, it is platform agnostic, so it works for everything. That's patreon.com/Mimicry. There are a couple of tiers, different benefits and such. I'm not going to bang on about them. This was an interesting video to make because while I am not playing in that level, eventually this design philosophy will affect the casual or more casual player base. Because things will be pushed out, okay, fight's done, and once the world first people are past it, okay, let's do the tuning and the tuning and the tuning. And while I'm not mad at the devs for that, because the devs work very, very hard, everybody has a schedule to keep. You gotta get stuff out there. And of course, some workplaces are a little more toxic than others. That's for another video. I had fun doing this, and I hope that the mount you're farming drops on the first kill. Take care. Enjoy gaming.